Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Where are we? Are we connected? Let's see. I think it's working. Let's see if Discord's on. Sorry I'm late today. There we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Sorry I'm so late. I was working, lost track of time, got here late and everything. Billy, good to see you in the chat. Let's run through our program for tonight. What are we doing here? I have up on the screen an announcement from a brand new podcaster in the game. Share my screen here. Colleen, good to see you. Earth Crisis Hoodie. Hey, everybody. Apologies for being late today. Very late, 10 minutes late. That's I'm usually right on time at 8 p.m. on the dot. 8 p.m. New York, depending on your time zone. So there's a new person in the podcast game as of this week. I guess he's had previous podcasts before, but you either die a president or you live long enough to see yourself become a podcaster. Bernie has the Bernie the podcast, I guess. The branding for this is quite good, but an interesting development nonetheless. In a recent post on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, Bernie writes, I am excited to announce that this week I am launching a new podcast. In the first few episodes, we discuss my recent book, It's Okay to Be Angry About Capitalism. Clearly, he has been made aware of the forthcoming Maoist revolution. So he's starting a podcast. I wonder if there will be a Patreon. He says if you have a copy of the book, you can make a donation today of $12 or any amount you can afford at berniesanders.com/book, and we'll send it to you in the mail. Sliding scale for the book. Okay, not too bad. Appreciate that. I think the main takeaway from this story is that when a presidential candidate, a former presidential candidate, then becomes a media person, let's say the Tulsi Gabbard approach, it certainly makes all of this work quite a bit easier, that there's a direct through line through content and alternative media into political action. So what we're really waiting for, and I think Eamon in the Discord pointed this out, but what we're waiting for is the reverse Tulsi Gabbard, where somebody who is an alternative media celebrity then becomes the podcaster as political candidate. That's the next step. So at least this is a positive indication that those things are indeed possible, and will certainly make for a more robust, more interesting ecosystem. Our main story tonight is about TikTok, the inevitable looming ban of TikTok, which has been in the works for years and years by now. I'm going to share an article from the Washington Post. We're also going to look at the New Republic and another piece from USA Today. So you probably heard about this week. All of this is very relatively recent. Josh, below your stream is someone playing Fortnite on their ass. I saw that online. I don't necessarily know. Was that like a hot tub streamer? There's like a titty streamer who is playing Fortnite, and I guess maybe green screen on the butt or green screen on the booty shorts or something like that. Twitch is really, I mean, it's been a slow process of just content devolving into basically webcams. That's been in the works for a while now. So, Twitch to OnlyFans eventually will make the leap. House passes TikTok bill. Are TikTok's days numbered? What you need to know. You probably heard about this week. The House voted overwhelmingly to approve a measure that would ban TikTok from operating in the United States or force a sale, posing the most serious threat yet to the platform for short-form video. The bill passed in the House with an enormous vote, overwhelming bipartisan consensus, 352 to 65, with one member voting present, showing wide bipartisan support with backing from the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, and former House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi. It now heads to the Senate, where its fate is more uncertain. So this next process will probably take several months. You've heard from people before, different positions that they've taken on the TikTok ban. We have a very interesting political coalition emerging, where there are people from different sectors of the far right, different sectors of the far left. There is a horseshoe coalition forming to prevent people from a horseshoe coalition forming opposing the TikTok ban. At issue is TikTok's Chinese ownership. Of course, as it always has been. U.S. officials say parent company ByteDance could hand over the personal information of the 170 million Americans who use the popular short video app to Beijing. Now, this has been the subject of much punditry and cybersecurity, national security discourse. I believe that has absolutely nothing to do with the TikTok ban. Tonight, I'll tell you the one singular, indisputable reason that TikTok is going to be banned, and I'm sorry that it will sorely disappoint you. But I think the evidence is overwhelming. The timing is not coincidental. People are bragging about their channel points. Are your channel points keeping pace with inflation on Twitch? The bill's opponents have raised free speech concerns. No one gives a shit about that. If you work in the government, there's like no one who cares about free speech. They also say TikTok has taken steps to safeguard the data of Americans by storing it on U.S. servers. That is also nonsense, because we know for a fact after testimony in front of the Senate, that testimony in front of Congress, that actually the content creators, although the users have their data stored in the US, the content creators have their data stored in China. So doesn't pass the smell test here. What does divest mean? The legislation calls for ByteDance to divest or sell TikTok, or TikTok will be banned from app stores and web hosting services in the United States. ByteDance would have 165 days to comply. So just for reference, that's like an impossibly short term to, I mean, things could happen, magical things could happen, but that is an impossibly short term. They're going to need to start working on it now, and they're also going to have to hope that it is extremely time intensive in the Senate, and that it takes months and months and months so that they can reach a deal, sell it to some American company, what have you. TikTok says the bill would give a narrow timeline to find a buyer with the resources to buy TikTok and overcome the technical challenges involved in spinning it off. Max Reed has a great piece about this. We're actually not going to visit Max's recent post on Substack, but I am sympathetic to one of his arguments, which I think is fairly most sympathetic to, is that TikTok is uniquely socially corrosive. I think this is the kind of thing that the technology is it's analogous to putting a slot machine in the hands of every child in America. So do we really want kids to spend all day in a casino? That just seems a little bit problematic to me. Now, this is the most interesting thing. I'm moving over here to the New Republic. Here are the only representatives who voted against the TikTok ban. So rather short list. I'm going to read off some of the highlights, and then we're going to explore this piece in the Wall Street Journal, to their great credit, which gives the real reason that TikTok was banned. You've been hearing about this since Trump. He initially forced the sale to the American company, made them transform. He threatened bans, back like 4 years ago now. But this time it's actually going to happen, and the reason will make you very disappointed. So House of Representatives voted Wednesday to ban TikTok. 352 in favor, 65 against. So the bill passed in the House. Now it's going to move to the Senate. And let's just read off some of the names here. There's 15 Republicans and 50 Democrats who voted against this legislation. An odd horseshoe coalition forming. I'll just read some of the names here. Jamal Bowman from New York, Cori Bush, Matt Gaetz, not usually people who show up in a coalition together, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Pramila Jayapal, Ro Khanna, Barbara Lee, Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Any other real surprise names here? Is Rand Paul listed? Did Rand Paul vote present? I'm pretty sure he was. Oh, he's never mind. He's not a representative. He has also been an outspoken critic. He is very much against it. So it's a rather interesting mix of left and right on this. Marjorie Taylor Greene also made some interesting statements about funding to Israel, which brings us to the Wall Street Journal piece. How TikTok was blindsided by a U.S. bill that could ban it. Let me pull up. I'm just going to run through this piece rather quickly, and I wanted to share a few sections from this article. 2 weeks ago, executives from TikTok's U.S. operations flew to their company's international headquarters in Singapore with good news. They told bosses that after years of battling over its fate in the US, the popular video app wasn't in imminent danger of being banned in its most important market, US, according to people familiar with the meetings. Among the positive signs, Joe Biden's election campaign had just joined the app on Super Bowl Sunday. Days after returning to the US, they learned they had miscalculated. Sorely miscalculated indeed. Behind the scenes in Washington, does anyone have a prediction about what I'm going to get to here? Is there any guesses in the chat about what is the overarching reason behind why the United States government now wants to ban TikTok after 4 years of Republicans and Democrats disagreeing about it, and now there's just an overwhelming bipartisan consensus about the urgency of banning this new app? Behind the scenes in Washington, a bipartisan group of lawmakers and Biden administration officials had been quietly planning new legislation to ban TikTok or force its sale to a non-Chinese owner. The legislation was the culmination of more than a year-long effort to curb TikTok by a coalition of China hawks in Washington and Silicon Valley, and it had gained new momentum in part because of anger over TikTok videos about the Israel-Hamas conflict. There you go. Free Salad has it in the chat. Colleen says that's the only broad coalition. Damn it. Yeah. Well, that's the broad coalition of corrupt, elite captured representatives, not a broad coalition. People are overwhelmingly, as we will see, there is compelling quantitative data to see where Democratic sentiments lie on this issue. That's going to be explored in this article. I'm very impressed by the Wall Street Journal for running this piece. This is incredible. Okay, so the bill has gained new momentum because of the Israel-Hamas conflict. When lawmakers went public last week with their plans, broad support for the bill caught TikTok by surprise. 170 million users in the US, largely children, mostly children, Gen Z. You know their sentiments massively lie with Palestine as opposed to Israel on this issue. Legislation faces a steeper path in the Senate. Don't think of this as being like, oh my God, it's going to happen immediately. This is going to be drawn out and litigated for months in the Senate. It's a very slow process, but it is surprising that it happens like rather quickly after some key events. Where is this section? I'm looking for a certain section here. After Trump's ban attempt, TikTok set to walling off its U.S. data in an attempt to reassure a government panel that TikTok had been negotiating with it and let TikTok remain in the U.S. It ran television ads with all-American themes, including veterans and American flags. When Montana tried to ban TikTok, the company won an injunction temporarily blocking the state, with a federal judge saying it likely violated the First Amendment. Scrolling down here, we shouldn't be surprised. The lead for this article, the key piece of information, is buried several pages into it. On this note of advancing the legislation, they write, it was slow going until October 7th. The attack that day in Israel by Hamas and the ensuing conflict in Gaza became a turning point in the push against TikTok, Helberg said. People who historically hadn't taken a position on TikTok became concerned with how Israel was portrayed in the videos and what they saw as an increase in anti-Semitic content on the app. Yeah, became concerned, more like got a phone call from their donors or the deep state or whatever. The piece continues, Anthony Goldblum, a San Francisco-based data scientist and tech executive, started analyzing data TikTok published in its dashboard for ad buyers, showing the number of times users watched videos with certain hashtags. This is it. This is the most important part of the article. He found far more views for videos with pro-Palestinian hashtags than those with pro-Israel hashtags. While the ratio fluctuated, he found that at times it ran 69-1 in favor of videos with pro-Palestinian hashtags. That is it. That is the whole story right there. After being stalled and deliberated indefinitely And this was evil nationalism. Remember when they said it was white supremacy and it was Christian nationalism because Trump was trying to ban TikTok and that was anti-American. And now the overwhelming majority of Democrats, what are the fucking numbers here? 352 to 65 in the House are now banning it because they don't like how many people are posting in solidarity with Palestine. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The real reason TikTok is being banned is because people are expressing the democratic sentiment that they oppose Israel's genocide that's happening in real time. So unfucking believable. And I gotta say, I think it's actually going to happen. I wrote about this before in whatever iteration it was of the platform wars, I think part 3 of that very long essay, but I didn't think it would happen like this. I did not think it would happen like this. One of the things that I hinted at, that I explored in that essay, largely from the impact of American platforms in foreign states, is that they provide a alternative media platform for the opposition. So we have that happening here with a foreign platform from China, but it's not an American platform, obviously, and it has provided the platform for a movement that runs against the sentiment of the majority of the American government, obviously, and now that is going to become the rationale for shutting it down. So whatever you hear in the next few months about national security, all of that stuff is nonsense. That all of that is fake. It's purely a product of market competition from American companies. Meta wants it out of there because they want Instagram Reels to take over. Google wants it out of there because they want YouTube Shorts to be the lion's market share of vertical videos. So they're very happy to have the hegemon, 170 million users on TikTok, to be kicked out. Whatever the rationale happens to be, if it's cybersecurity, if it's people just expressing their democratic voice, as long as it doesn't have to do with Palestine, this is it. It's going to happen. I really think it's going to happen. So whenever this thing gets through, the Senate, it's going to be pretty substantial. Yeah, and it comes right on the back of Super Bowl Sunday, where President Biden had just joined the app, spending tons and tons of ad dollars on TikTok, trying to reach the youth vote. And you know what? It just turns out that the youth prefers Palestine to Israel 69-1. So, unbelievable. Disregard everything you hear in the next few months. You know the real reason why this legislation advanced. You know the real reason why it's going to get banned. God. What a disappointment. What a disappointment. I was all set to have these contrarian opinions about banning TikTok for a whole variety of different reasons. And then now it's actually going to happen for a cause that I care about. And it's just it's like the worst possible way that any of this could happen. All right, tonight's program, we're going to check in with dear friend of the pod, spirit cooker, Marina Abramovich. She has recently released some type of longevity thing, like skincare, or I don't know. I think it's basically she's selling adrenochrome, and it's like skincare products plus adrenochrome, and it makes you live forever. I don't know. The blood of unborn children, or whatever people do. We'll look at this video. The longevity method is the name of the product. We're going to watch a bit of the news. We're going to check in with our good friend Greg, or JReg. Wait, is this an Art Chad video or a Greg video? Oh, it's an Art Chad video. Sorry, we're going to check in with Art Chad. They co-host a podcast together, so whatever. And then we're going to watch, I confuse the two. We're going to watch the first episode and the only episode of The Don Lemon Show. The only episode of The Don Lemon Show on X, because the way that he interviewed Elon Musk got him immediately fired. Immediately fired. So we'll skip around the timeline for that. I'm really looking forward to that one, because the game I want to play while we watch this interview is in what part of this interview did Elon Musk make up his mind to fire Don Lemon, and how much more of the interview continues after that? Like, is it in minute 10? Is it in minute 20 or 30 or whatever? So we'll explore some of that. And yeah, that's our whole program for tonight. So venting a little bit at the top of the stream, because this TikTok ban is just really rubbing me the other way. I was all prepared to make arguments about foreign interference and Dominion voting machines and all sorts of silly nonsense. But unfortunately, we are faced with quite a disparaging, quite a demoralizing situation. All right, let's check in with our good friend Marina Abramovich. This website, this longevity skincare product recently launched. She's doing it in collaboration with her doctor. Let's just see what she's got, what she's selling here. Does the video not want to play for us here?
In this age of screens, our souls seek the simplicity of the past. Each breath is a chance to reconnect and add years to our life. Our true longevity isn't in machines, but in ancient knowledge.
Yeah,
the
this is
method brings us back to ancient secrets of longevity.
Okay, that's it. Very artistic. They're selling some type of infogoop type of supplement. I can't even totally be clear what it is because there's like paint that's splattered on their hands. My understanding was that this was drops that you apply to your face. We've got 4 different, I want to call them flavors, but I guess they're different different supplements. We have energy, immune, anti-allergy, and face lotion. They are also, just coincidentally, I need to point this out, they are color-coded with the different quadrants of the political compass. So you have your authoritarian left in the red, your libertarian left in the green, your they're using the more contemporary political compass. They don't have the traditional purple, so they have the contemporary yellow for libertarian right, and then the authoritarian right in the light blue. What the hell is energy? Let's just look at one of these, because I guess the face lotion is just face lotion, right? It's like G Fuel for people who follow Gwyneth Paltrow, says Liz Kist in the chat. What is G Fuel? Is that goop fuel? Is that like is that food? I don't actually know what that is. What is G Fuel? Natural face lotion. Reveal your natural glow with face lotion. Unveil a refreshed and balanced complexion with Marina Abramovich's longevity method face lotion. This finely balanced formula combines quick absorbing elements with deeply nourishing ingredients like vitamin C, some kind of acid, I don't know, a type of acid that starts with an H and Josh can't pronounce, ensuring your skin is left feeling cleansed and hydrated. And the ingredients are white bread? What? White bread, vitamin C, and white wine. G Fuel, oh, is gamer fuel. Oh, of course, yes. Yeah, I somehow missed that in the chat. All right, I'm surprised to see white bread as an ingredient. The other one we pulled up here, energy. This looks like a spray bottle. Is this like drops? What do you do with it? The face lotion is a spray bottle, confirmed. And the energy is an eyedropper. So I guess you add it to your water, you add it to your food or something. They write, awaken your inner vitality. This sounds very much like super male vitality. Awaken your inner vitality with Marina Abramovich's longevity method energy drops. Infused with the essence of nature's most potent ingredients, these drops are your daily ally in harnessing energy, vigor, and vitality. Each drop is a step towards a more energized and vibrant you. Experience the transformative power of nature and let these energy drops be the catalyst to a day filled with dynamism and zest, the Marina Abramovich way. Grapeseed flour and cranberry juice concentrate. Not a lot of ingredients in these things. You know, usually they kind of, if I grab the, hold on. If I grab the super female vitality that I happen to have in the studio here, they usually throw in like a dozen different ingredients. Tribulus, epidium, ashwagandha, oat straw, black walnut hull, suma, maca, tungat ali. That's a testosterone increaser. I'm not sure why that's in the female vitality, but I've looked into that one before. I haven't taken it actually. Mura, palma, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, katuba, and shilajit. Okay, all different types of familiar Ayurvedic medicine and what have you. But usually, these just seem like they're a little scant on ingredients. This other one here, oh, we've got shilajit in the anti-allergy one, and licorice, licuriate Licuriate. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Root dust. Licuriate. Something like that. Never heard of this one. I'm usually familiar with a lot of these Ayurvedic, different types of medicines and what have you. The most ingredients are in Immune. Boost your immunity naturally with Marina Abramovich Longevity Method drops. We've got fresh garlic bulb, fresh lemon, shilajit, hawthorn berry, calamus root, and flower pollen? Well, I hope they don't put the flower pollen in the anti-allergy drops. Okay, so important thing is that she's very difficult to capture any value from your artwork, especially if you are a performance artist, right? They don't have stuff to sell. They don't have paintings. People sell like the costumes from performances. If there's a set, they sell like, the backdrop, and they sell the different props from the performance, but very hard to get paid. And she is one of the most famous artists of the medium of performance, and numerous museum retrospectives, but very difficult to get paid for a lot of this stuff. So I guess one of the ways of capturing that value is to just become a kind of Gwyneth Paltrow, Alex Jones, supplement seller on the internet. I was especially curious looking through this because the earned media for this site is rather interesting, one might say, because Marina Abramovich has been the subject of a few different stories, not all of them very, very flattering, I guess you would say. I'm just looking here. So this is the media linked on their site. We have the Financial Times again, another magazine, the Financial Times a third time, British Vogue, Wallpaper, Mail Online, Collateral, Harper's Bazaar. I don't think I can read this one. P News, I'm not sure what that one is. New York Post. What? Why is the New York Post? This is on their official website that's selling their drops. They're listing the New York Post. There's a whole bunch of others here. Euronews, Hyperallergic, The Conversation, The Guardian, Surface Magazine, ArtNet News, Beauty Scene. This piece from the New York Post says, performance artist Marina Abramovich shills $125 garlic immunity drops. Edgy performance artist Marina Abramovich has become a wellness entrepreneur, selling $125 immunity drops made with raw garlic and chili peppers and a $250 cleanser, which includes white bread, after her Abramovich Institute plan collapsed. She was trying to start a nonprofit institute to teach her method to performance artists upstate, which unfortunately did not pan out, it seems. I think she managed to build a house, and they never raised money for the foundation. I think it was on Kickstarter or something like that. This is a few years ago. I don't fully remember the story. Abramovich became famous for staring down people in a blockbuster museum modern art show in New York in 2010, building a career which included provocative nudity, with visitors to part of the show having to squeeze between a naked man and a naked woman. Right, yes, you had to squeeze between the naked people. That was a little weird. She was also the focus, here it is. She was also the focus of bizarre QAnon conspiracy theories that she was involved in a cannibalistic, satanic pedophile cabal. This is... I mean, this is what you would expect from the New York Post. But what you might not expect is that linked in their official earned media department of their own website, where they're selling their $125 garlic drops, is that what appears to be all positive press, saying how wonderful their supplements are and celebrating the launch and whatever, among them is linked the New York Post, where they talk about her being part of a cannibalistic, satanic pedophile cabal. Not exactly what you would expect for earned media. But her great plans for an art center bearing her name in the Hudson Valley have fizzled, and her foundation took in just $7 in 2022, the Post has learned. Yeah, I remember hearing about the thing being announced and then just never hearing, like, what became of it. They had all these celebrities involved. They had Lady Gaga. Yeah, the whole crew that was spirit cooking. Yes, a lot of that. A lot of spirit cooking going on here. And, you want to add a little garlic and chili powder to the spirit cook. Well, you got some drops. You got some drops for it now. Instead, she has launched a range of longevity projects which are not FDA approved, with the aid of an alternative health guru who advocates leeches as a therapy and a recipe credited to a Tibetan monk. So her partner in this, which we watched in the intro video, I'll see if I can play this again. Maybe I'll mute the tab instead. But her partner is like her personal doctor, who is some type of alternative health guru. What is her name here? They're both kind of glamorously depicted in this video. Does she name her collaborator? How do you, with love and gratitude, Marina Abramovich? Where, and I mean, the other woman's face is on this too. Who is your partner? They've got a media person here. Very poorly designed website if we can't find the name of the partner for the business. Maybe somebody can find that in chat. Jack says, Josh, you going to take the hashtag leech challenge? Apparently leeches are her form of therapy and her primary patrons. God damn it. Okay. Right, it's Dr. Bronner. Yes, thank you. That's what I was looking for. And they're, curiously, they are running some pictures from the MoMA show. A very weird. Actually, I know the guy who's depicted in this. So if you didn't see that show, there's 2 naked people, which the New York Post ran an image of, where you have to like walk between their naked bodies. I know the guy who's in this photo, not the naked person, the person who's about to walk between them. Steve Kaplan, that's his name. His name is Steve Kaplan. Holy shit. What a coincidence. I mean, I guess who else is going to see this stuff, right? He's a diehard. He's like an old New York head for art. Anything else major to cover here? Her latest venture, the Abramovich Longevity Method, is a pricey skincare and wellness line featuring face lotion, anti-allergy, energy, and immunity drops, retailing for as much as $580. I guess that's if you buy the whole box. I would love to see who is her partner in this. Oh, you weren't joking before. Literally, her name is Dr. Brenner, not Dr. Bronner. Colleen in chat says, Dr. Brenner, not Bronner, but would be a great collaboration. I thought you were making a joke in the chat, and I couldn't find her name. Dr. Nona Brenner. Okay. Abramovich has gone into business with Nona Brenner, who runs the Center of Health and prophylaxis? What the hell is... What does that word even mean? What is prophylaxis? An attempt to prevent disease. Okay. Prophylactic drug made together with a patient based on... okay, that includes beta blockers, NSAIDs. Okay, an attempt to prevent disease. Brenner says she uses Tibetan medicine, herbs, and other holistic approaches, including leeches, to help high-end clients who have included Donna Karen recharge and adopt healthier lifestyles. I mean, this sounds too conspiratorial, but my first, I think the obvious takeaway is that Marina Abramovich has a lot of clout. It's very prestigious. She's in all these museum shows. There are very wealthy people who, will purchase all types of skincare routines. She also looks incredible for, I think she's like 70 years old or something. Like, she looks great. She looks much younger. Her skin is in great condition. She takes care of herself. So obviously you can tap into that by selling, expensive alternative health recipes and whatever. But it just does seem a little bit strange that for a person who is, in some parts of the internet, very well known for adrenochrome type conspiracies and spirit cooking and, draining the vital energy from babies or whatever the hell they think that they're doing, to then sell longevity pills as the final grift, Is there a world in which there are people who are stupid enough to believe in spirit cooking and then also think that they can just buy it from Marina Abramovich? Like, is there a deluded QAnon yoga mom out there who says, I don't approve of what she's doing, but I do know that the adrenochrome works because all of the elites look great and they're in great health. Maybe I should buy some of those pills. Is this an attempt to tap in and capture some of the value of the spirit cooking conspiracy? I want to say that linking this New York Post piece on the official webpage is maybe an attempt, is maybe a kind of tacit hint at that. Is Dami Squad says unironically yes. Is it? Adrenochrome works. Chat is we've had some experience. Okay, so this is the Star building. Just scrolling down to the bottom of the New York Post piece, they I guess built the building and then could not raise any more money for the foundation, and it's completely now it's no longer in process. As of 2022, they took in $7. So. Yeah, and then they mention again at the close of the piece, she was also the focus of false QAnon conspiracy theories, that she was part of a ring of satanic cannibal pedophiles who fed on children. It grew out of Hillary Clinton's leaked emails, including one from Abramovich inviting the candidate's campaign manager, John Podesta, to a, quote, spirit cooking dinner hosted by the artist. She told The Guardian that it was a reference to an installation which wrote poems in pig's blood, and added, I'm an artist, I'm not a Satanist. They Googled me, and I'm a perfect fit to a conspiracy theory. I mean, interesting attempt. If that is the end game for this whole process, to capture some of the value, some of the fame, the negative attention from spirit cooking by selling adrenochrome-like longevity drops, that is a very interesting development. My guess is that it's probably more of the former, where it's just like she's a glamorous elderly woman, and so she's just tapping in some of her prestige and clout, kind of do a Gwyneth Paltrow type of grift, sell beauty serums that are far overpriced, garlic water and whatnot. All right, we're tapping into some news here. I'm going to drink some water because I've been talking all night at this point, closing out of my million different tabs for all these different supplements. And we're going to watch a little bit of a little bit of news after our art.
All right, at the same time, there's some fascinating new analysis that we wanted to dig into for you about the way that non-white voters are basically voting more like white people. There is a racial realignment that is occurring, that is showing up increasingly frequently in the polls. There's a great Financial Times column with a bunch of associated charts that really broke this down. It was very interesting. Put this up on the screen, this first piece, and keep this up for a minute.
Yeah.
So this tracks that racial realignment, as I said, with non-white voters, especially non-college, non-white.
Let's just read this graph so we don't miss any of the information that's here. The text reads, American politics is going through a racial realignment, with non-white voters shifting away from the Democrats and towards the Republicans. And we're watching two lines. Democrats and Republicans in 1964 is where the chart begins, and the numbers are 100 for the Democrats and 0 for the Republicans. So they're at complete opposite ends of the chart. I guess these are in percentages. And then over the course of, we're plotting from the 60s, 80s, 2000s, 2020s, basically over the course of the next 60 plus years, just about 60 years, these two lines are becoming more convergent. So non-white Americans' vote intention in pre-election polls for presidential elections. So I guess the Democrats are losing the percentage of white voters and the Republicans are gaining with non-white voters. What seems to be a pretty dramatic transformation in 2024. There was an increase from 2016 to 2020, and in this next election, the projections, because we're looking at their pre-election polls of where people indicate they're going to vote, they are converging on nearly 50-50, which is that's a pretty phenomenal thing, where you think that Republicans are the party of white people and then everyone else is lumped into the Democrats. And what it seems to be is that there's almost a 50-50 wash is the numbers that we're converging on. Let's see what they say.
Voters shifting away from Democrats and toward Republicans. So you can see that blue line is the Democratic share of those voters over time, and the red line is the Republican share of those voters over time. One thing, Sagar, that I noted about this particular chart is you actually had some of this realignment occurring during the Bush years.
Yes.
There was a trend towards closing that gap. That ended and reversed under Obama, I think partly because he was the first black president. And I do think that that forestalled something that was almost an inevitability, that as the memories of the civil rights era faded, that younger Black and brown voters would vote more in line with what their actual political preferences are, meaning that previously you had a lot of conservative Black and Latino voters who were nonetheless voting Democratic, even though the party was at odds with some of their especially socially cultural conservative positions.
That's right.
And now, with those memories of the civil rights era fading, they are beginning to vote more in line with what their actual political views and ideology, especially again on culture, really reflect.
Well, I mean, the next graph, guys, if we could please put that up on the screen, really reflects what you're talking about. So, for example, and this has been, I think, the biggest story. I've been trying to hammer this home now for years. White college-educated voters are the ones who are swinging most towards Democrats. People who are boomers, 65 plus, also increasing. And just so everybody knows, this is not necessarily a bad thing for the Democratic Party, because boomers and white college-educated people, they love to vote. Now, white non-college educated, slightly moving Republican, Asian Americans slightly. Then you look at the overall age groups. There's been major swings, the biggest swings amongst the 18 to 29 demographic, amongst Hispanics, and specifically amongst Black Americans. The Black American swing away from Democrats is some net minus 25%. Again,
Oops, sorry, muted myself there for a moment. Just going to read off some of the stats of this to get a little bit more fine-grained. The title of this chart reads, latest polls show Democrats going backwards faster with Black and Latino voters than any other demographic. So we're looking at swings towards or away from the Democrats compared to 2020, and these are in percentage points. So we've got a few different categories here. For white college-educated voters, we have a almost 5%, 5 percentage points drifting towards the Democrats. For voters who are 65 years or older, we have a little bit less, let's say like 2.5% of a swing towards the Democrats. And then every other demographic that's listed here, pretty substantial. White, non-college educated voters drifting 1 or 2 percentage points towards Republicans. Asian voters drifting about 2.5% towards Republicans. And now it starts to ramp up when we get into the age brackets that voters age 45 to 64 are drifting 5% towards Republicans. 30 to 44, getting younger, are drifting almost 10% towards Republicans. 18 to 29 are drifting, let's say 12.5%, right, between 10 and 15, 12.5% towards Republicans. And then these staggering categories of Hispanic voters drifting 20 percentage points towards Republicans. Very, very uncomfortable thing to imagine or remember, but 37% of Latino males voted for Trump in 2020. The largest category we have here, over 25 percentage points of Black voters drifting towards Republicans compared to 2020. So pretty staggering. I mean, these are, to be honest, really surprising numbers. This is not the kind of swing activity that one might expect. I mean, anything within 5 percentage points, total expected anomaly within the margin of error, whatever, drifts up towards 10. You start to see voters 30 to 44, and then definitely 18 to 29, over 10% swing back towards Republicans. But the Hispanic and Black categories drifting 20 and 25%, over 25% towards Republicans is pretty staggering. This is from the Financial Times, by the way. This is just for the source of the data here.
I do not want to overstate this, but amongst younger Blacks specifically, and men as well, we are seeing increasing less identification with the Democratic Party. Now, will these people vote? Maybe. Statistically, probably not. Will this have a lasting impact on our politics? Yeah, I think so. And the reason why is because increasing non-party identification is now really the mainstream, Crystal. We saw this previously where both the Democratic and Republican identification are near all-time lows. Independent is actually nearly double the individual party identification for both Democrats and for Republicans. So a lot of these Black voters, Hispanic voters, I wouldn't call them Republicans per se in terms of a vote red no matter what or vote blue no matter who context. But I would say that they're up for grabs in a way that they have not been in a generation since the 1964 era, which really, the whole Southern strategy and all that completely changed the U.S. electoral
It's good to
map.
have
And I think
independence. I'll
we're
say
in the
that
midst
for
of
sure.
that. Florida becoming a red state is a sign. Ohio becoming a red state is a sign. Georgia becoming a blue state. Arizona becoming, or at least a purple state. Arizona, like our battleground maps from 20 years ago are totally different from the way that you and I are going to be watching this election in 2024.
Yeah, that is true. Put the next one up on the screen, because this was really interesting to me. This is something I hadn't really thought of. But this chart, the headline here says, we're used to the idea that young people lean more towards Democrats than the old, but the opposite is actually true of Black Americans.
Holy crap. Okay, let's just look at these charts for a second here. All US adults, and starting from age 20 up to age 70, Democrats, they have the majority basically all the way up until 55 just about, and then Republicans surge over them, and then they get a majority towards age 70. So you're used to hearing about that. And we're looking here at Black voters, overwhelmingly Democrat, especially pronounced among people who lived through the civil rights era, like, of course, very much expected. And that similarly is around age 55, maybe a little bit older here, but there's a noticeable bump that as people get older, they are much more Democrat. And I guess the thing that they're drawing attention to is that the younger you get, the more that those lines converge for Black voters, in that there's about a 20% differential, maybe a 25% differential at the age 18 to 20, the early years, and then there's an 85% differential for the older end of the graph. So really significant difference for older people, ages 70 and over. But that shrinks to a quarter of that size for voters who are 18 to 20, which is pretty surprising. Not what I would have expected.
Younger you are, if you are a Black American, the less likely you are to identify with the Democratic Party. Now, you'll notice that trend line for Republicans, it's inched up a little bit among young people, but it's more like you're saying, Sagar, they're not switching from Democrat to Republican. It's more that they're less of these diehard, partisan committed Democrats and more likely to be independents. And there is somewhat of an uptick among Republican support, although based on this chart, it is relatively minimal. And, I have to say, obviously, I'm no fan of the Republican Party, but I think it is a healthy thing for Democrats to reckon with the fact that they cannot take any demographic group of their base for granted.
Absolutely.
Because the minute that, you feel like, oh, well, they're just going to be with us, it really doesn't matter what we do, the minute that group is going to get absolutely none of their wishes and priorities met. So in that way, I actually think it's very healthy that you have this reassessment of, the relationship with the Democratic Party. And it's more of like, okay, well, what have you done for me lately?
And that's what I hope and I wish. The next one, please. This, in my opinion, is like one of the most impactful graphs that you're ever going to see on American politics. For those who are just listening, it says that the income divide in U.S. politics is almost closed, and the richest now favor Democrats over Republicans. It shows how the poorest third of America.
Hold on. This graph, this one is important. The income divide in U.S. politics has almost closed, and the richest now favor Democrats over Republicans. Oh, God. Oh, this segment. Okay. So we're looking again from 1960 up to 2020. We're spanning the last 60 years again. And in 1960, it was really close. It's like a few points towards Republican, where the richest people, the richest people identify with the Republican Party. And then there starts to open up in the neoliberal period. The 70s, it begins to diverge really significantly. It hits its absolute peak in the 1980s during Reaganomics, during the neoliberal turn. The richest third of Americans identify 20 points plus on the Republican side, and the poorest third of Americans identify 25 points plus with the Democrats. So that's the kind of polarity that you grew up with. That's the story that we've inherited. Those numbers remain pretty constant, it seems to trickle back towards each other, where there's less of a divergence between the party and the wealthy and the poor around the year 2000. 2010, it enlarges again, but then we begin to see, this is the real anomaly, that in the 2008 recovery. So this is, that's because the curve right here that we're watching with this richest third that starts to bend back towards the Republicans. This is not exactly in 2010, it's in 2008. The poorest third also takes a curve in 2008. So post 2008, there is now almost 0% differential about whether the richest third of Americans, a weird way that they've divided this up, prefer Democrats to Republicans. So, God, yeah, no wonder most people are independent. The middle section here, the median average, Jack is pointing out in the chat, is basically from the 1975 up until now is like basically constant, and now it's slightly leaning towards Republican, but just by a small margin. So yeah, I think the biggest takeaway here is that the wealthiest third of the country now favor Democrats over Republicans, which is a very recent development and is entirely a product of the post-2008 financial environment.
Spiking in the year 1980, which makes sense, by a near plus 25% margin preferred Democrats, while the richest third, at again a near 20% margin, supported Republicans. Since then, the gap has roughly begun to narrow. It slightly went back to where things were in the Bush era. But from Obama really onwards, there has been a major swing of white college-educated Republicans who, of course, are going, or sorry, white college-educated people who are, of course, going to disproportionately make up the richest third of Americans, swing in their Democratic preference. A lot of this is culture, but a lot of this is four-year college degree. So while we can look at this in income, I really think it comes back to education, education, education. The poorest third of Americans increasingly becoming much more Republican over time. Let's be clear, they still do not prefer the Republicans on net, when part of this is why I still think the Democratic coalition is very strong. Is not only do they have a net preference amongst the poorest third, but now they have all of these rich people who love to vote, and they have all of their interests, that the Republican Party used to be very
I'm going to disagree a little bit on the cultural analysis of this. I think that education places people into email jobs, which are often on the benefiting. They are the beneficiaries of financialization. They're not people who are, in the, as we have learned from MAGA communism, that baristas are not they are not productive laborers. Baristas do not qualify as the proletariat, and nor do people who do email jobs. So I think that the education places you in a job that then determines your income. I'm much more sympathetic to that analysis, but I'm going to wind us back to two of these graphs here, and then we'll wind down on this segment. We'll move on to some other news stories, but I saw this come across my feed, obviously, in the last week, and it struck me like the degree to which the Democratic Party is captured by ideology, and all of our legacy media and our publications, our institutions, and so on are captured by this weird ideology of the last few years. People are going to look at these graphs of young, especially young voters of color, fleeing the Democratic Party in record numbers that are anomalous to basically any period in the past 60 years, fleeing the Democratic Party. They're going to read this. They're going to read these numbers, and they're going to think to themselves, "Oh my God, this is an indication that there's too much white supremacy in the Democratic Party, and we need to double down on DEI incentives." That's the only way that they're going to read it. Colleen says, sound off in the chat if you think this is Come Down's fault. No, I think this is the kind of thing that people are going to read in the exact opposite language, that like people don't care about bread and butter issues, but really like the Democratic Party needs to confront its own internalized racism. That's what they're going to take away from it. All right, I'm moving us forward into our video portion of this stream. We're going to check in with our good friend, Art Chad. Mitsu Cherry is not enjoying that analysis. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. I think we know what's going to happen. All right, we're checking in with our friend, Art Chad. This is a video that absolutely blew up 500,000 views, titled "Gen Z is the most extreme generation ever." Rather short, 7-minute video. We're going to do this, and then I promise we will get to our Don Lemon. We're a few minutes behind tonight, but we're going to watch that Don Lemon and Elon Musk video. Okay, so let's do this. I'll keep my commentary to a minimum. I appreciate Archad's content. This is one of the bigger videos. We've been watching this channel. I believe he's actually lurking in the Discord. We are familiar with his content a bit. God damn it, Colleen is trolling me so hard. I'm gonna slip up once and accidentally read your chat. Gen Z is the most extreme generation ever. 3 reasons.
Guess what? I'm Gen Z and I don't hate myself. I actually quite like my generation. I like the people my age. I like the unity we have together. I like the struggles we go through.
Millennials and Gen Z never be able to buy out.
Teen suicide rate has surged by nearly 40%.
I can look at someone else in their early 20s and take a pretty good guess that they are feeling the same things I'm feeling. This deep and intense search for meaning.
We've got a Tumblr girl and a Boogaloo boy. Like you're finding the overlap between these different
In a
constituencies.
culture devoid of truth, of purpose, of anything. See, the thing is, you can have power or you can have meaning. But you can't have both. Where people used to give up all of their power, their will to power, their individual will, for the glory of God, the glory of religion and kingdom, or whatever higher purpose they look towards. We've done away with that, and now any one of us has the opportunity to seize vast amounts of power that no peasant could ever imagine having. But we have no meaning, we have no purpose, we have no inherent purpose to do so. What God are you answering to? Now take this meaninglessness, combine it with rampant individualism as a search for power and a search for meaning, and put the whole thing online, and you're left with the most extreme generation to ever exist. As Generation Z reconstructs meaning and reconstructs purpose
Got a
from the
Clown
ground
World
up,
post
they
in
are
here.
led by 3 guiding ideologies, and understanding what these concepts are
3 guiding
will help you understand the
ideologies.
culture at large.
Part 1. Nihilism, as it is experienced, the actual existential sense of the meaningless and futility of life, is not the product of an intellectual theory.
Viktor Frankl wrote this to explain that, contrary of how you may feel, existential dread is a product of your environment and your scenario. It's not like you can just one day think the wrong thought and then be empty for the rest of your life. That's not the case. It's all environmental. It's all mental health. Realizing the insignificance and meaninglessness of one's life could be soul-crushing for one person to realize, while someone else could take those same realizations and have it produce a profound sense of freedom. These 2 types of nihilism are called active and passive nihilism. Now, I know nihilism isn't a new concept to anybody watching this video. Just to say that Gen Z is nihilistic doesn't tell the full story. And when you look at the meme of the doomer and the bloomer, that's the difference that those memes are riffing on. They're really important to understand, especially active nihilism. Active nihilism and the way it uses the meaninglessness of life as a vessel for action is the foundation for the next 2 concepts I'm about to explain.
Part 2. Optimization.
Optimization.
The human brain hasn't evolved
like
past when we were
transhumanism?
hunter-gatherers. That's still what we are. We're not city dwellers. We're not modern creatures. The human brain can only maintain 200 close relationships. Past that, things start to fray. That's all we're built to do. That was the size of your hierarchy.
I recognize that
and that
Gen
was the
Z irony
size
meme
of the pool
as
you
well,
were
Jack.
competing
Yeah,
with. And
for
as our
sure.
hierarchy continues to expand globally via the internet, things are starting to get a little strange. Because, like, okay, 50 years ago, if you lived in an average-sized town and you wanted to be top of your game, you want to be a top 5% high-value person, what do? You get a good job, you save a bit of money, you get a good house, you get a nice car, you eat healthy, you take care of yourself. Normal things. Normal things that almost everybody I know does now. Your hierarchy was your town. You weren't competing with random people on the fucking internet. The amount of young men looking at Andrew Tate who are like, that's the top of their hierarchy, that's where they're going. That's never happened before. Our hierarchy growing this big has made Gen Z hyper-competitive. But the reason I say optimization and not competitiveness is because it goes deeper than that. As we get more competitive,
Have people ever seen Andrew Tate's workout program? There's an extensive video. I'm just going to speak over this for a few minutes. Optimization, modernity, bad. Yes, we get it. Andrew Tate's workout program that he encourages you to do, that you can recreate his physique by doing his program. He goes into the gym and does like 1,000 reps of 10 pounds. Like, no exaggeration. Like, one of his videos, he literally does 1,000 reps. Like, there is no trainer in the world, there's no strength trainer or bodybuilder or competitive athlete that would ever recommend doing 1,000 reps. It's like you're on the treadmill, but with your arms. You know, he's like on the chest press doing 1,000 reps. Like, just move your legs back and forth on a treadmill if you're not trying to do any strength training. It's very bizarre. All right, sorry, I talked over this too much.
Results-oriented practices in the arts has created the lowest common denominator of pop music and visual art. We have so much accumulated knowledge and so many examples of successful people that life is becoming like a video game with one broken build.
Part 3. Primitivism.
In historian Jacques Brezon's final book, From Dawn to Decadence, he outlines the history of Western culture from the Renaissance to the year 2000. He makes a point of going back to key concepts that reoccur throughout Western history. Things like individualism and emancipation have been guiding ideologies for a lot of Western history. But the one I want to focus on is primitivism. Primitivism is an apolitical ideology that is the search for a more primitive and authentic way of life, more true to human nature. Every ideology, political theory, and cultural movement is a search for a way of life more fulfilling than the status quo. Fascism makes the claim that inequality and power as an end in itself is more true to human nature than liberalism. Communism makes the claim that complete equality to the point where the individual is worth less than the group is more true to human nature than capitalism. Whether you like it or not, if you're in your early 20s, late teens, and you've managed to escape the passive nihilist camp, you are part of this search as well. We know that authenticity is the answer, but we don't know the right question to ask, and our narratives are our expression of that question. This sort of radical dissatisfaction is what defines Gen Z. It's all a search for purity. It's all a search for authenticity. This is why in the beginning I said that I love my generation, that I feel connected with them. I can promise you, no matter what you believe in, you have more in common with someone who radically opposes your views than you do with any apolitical person. The thing is that we're still too young to make a difference in the way things are run. As young people, we have a monopoly on contemporary culture. Culture is created for us to consume. Music, art, fashion, movies, television, everything is made for our generation. We own culture, but we have yet to own the modes of cultural production. And in a way, we're in the exact same spot that the boomers were in the late 60s. The boomers all took part in social justice movements and were very politically active in the late 60s. What did the boomers do after the 60s? They all grew up, joined the workforce, went to Wall Street, and gained control of the modes of cultural production. And now, boomers own 50% of all the property in the US. Go tomorrow to your university lecture and look at the vaguely reactionary conservative guy beside you and say, hey man, I know we disagree, but I know we're just both trying to figure this thing out. Let's get a drink. Let's shoot the shit. I guarantee you, you'll be good friends. Also, never kill yourself. Never kill yourself. Axiom. Wake up every day, say, I'm not going to kill myself.
That was a
so ingrained
unusual,
in your head that it is...
that was an unusual ending to that video. It's done really, really well. I guess it's very acutely broken down. What was it? Nihilism, optimization, which was introduced as a philosophy. I guess competitive platform economies and so on. It's not a Chicago accent. They're Canadian, both Dreg and Archat. And I mean, I can see why this resonates with a lot of people and why its viewership is so high. It's very edgy, and then it also casts a wide net for people. So, should I pull up our next video here? Let's see if I can grab this URL. Anything else super important to say about this? I feel like I should sit down with Archad and read a brief history of neoliberalism. Like, I feel like he would really benefit from a bit of David Harvey. You know what I mean? Like, I love the sentiment and the passion. God, I'm gonna hate watching this fucking Don Lemon video. This is gonna be gruesome. Yes, but to refine those reactionary sentiments, you know, I gotta say, I think he's strategic. I don't actually think he's a reactionary. I think he's playing to reactionaries and then injecting in little bits of class consciousness. That's what I think the long game of Archad is. I think it's an op. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. He's trying to reach the Paul Joseph Watson demographic, and then he's going to bring them into a critique of capitalism from the left. That's That's my long analysis of our chat. Okay, Don Lemon is talking. He was fired from mainstream media, then had this deal with X where they were going to launch a whole show. He decided to interview Elon Musk for the first episode of his show on X, like what Tucker Carlson is doing. And during that interview, apparently, the story is that immediately after the interview was ended, Elon Musk texted his team and said, the contract is now over. Like, we're not hiring Don Lemon. So somewhere during this interview, Elon Musk decides to fire Don Lemon. No sympathy for Don Lemon. He sucks. He's terrible. Elon Musk is also awful. So everybody in this video is terrible, and they do an awful job of interviewing and answering questions and so on. So let's just see how they open this up. We're going to skip around through the timeline. They're going to talk about news for a second, and then we're going to skip into the really juicy stuff, which is what I suspect got Don Lemon fired, talking about the great replacement, content moderation, DEI, and what Elon Musk calls the woke mind virus. So, all right, this should be entertaining at least.
How big it is, I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's about 3 times the size of the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And we built it in 16 months. It's the fastest construction project in the United States since World War II.
So I'm here, as you know, I'm on the platform because
they're doing this.
You say
Elon Musk requested that they film the interview at the Tesla factory with a Cybertruck in the background. So a little bit of sponsored content, product placement. I guess he owns the platforms and the cars, so why not? Just a whole company town of media production.
you're a free speech absolutist, right? And there are no conditions.
Yeah. Free speech is as much as possible within the bounds of the law.
Yeah. So the reason I'm saying that is because there are no conditions on this interview. You said that, we'll speak to you for an hour. I don't like sound bites, so I welcome that. So let's get into it. So we're here in Austin. South by Southwest is going on. We're at the Tesla headquarters. You are in the process of moving SpaceX here, I understand?
No.
Strike one.
SpaceX has a massive facility in South Texas where we build and launch Starship. And then we have in Bastrop near Austin, we are about to start production at a Starlink, a large Starlink factory for Starlink terminals. But it's but we're not shutting down any facilities in California.
Listen, we are here as part of a launch of a news interview show that is going to be on X.com. It's coming as a media industry, as you know, is going through a whole.
My connection screwing up? I don't know. It seems like our connection is fine. Is Elon Musk mismanaging this platform? He's running it into the ground. It can't even load these videos. Let's try and refresh the page. We're just watching this off of Twitter, which is where it's on at Don Lemon. Like, that's the page that posted it. Okay, it's working again. Let's see if we can skip forward to news on X.
California.
Listen, we are here as part of a launch of a news interview show that is going to be on X.com. It's coming as a media industry, as you know, is going through a whole lot of changes.
Yeah.
X has also been affected by that. Where do you see X.com's role in the future of news and journalism, Elon?
Well, I think I see the X as it's already the #1 source of news in the world. So it is the #1 way that people actually are informed about any kind of news, meaning real-time events, is on the X platform, formerly Twitter. There's nothing even close for real-time news. So we also want to expand upon that, and we have done so with long-form content. So instead of just doing what used to be called tweets, you can now do long-form posts. You can post an entire essay. In fact, you can now post an entire book to the platform. You can do long-form video content, so you can do up to 4-hour video segments. We really want news in whatever form it is, or information, I should say, in whatever form it is, to be available on our platform, whether it's short, long, text, pictures, video, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that we do, long-form video, interview shows, what have you.
Like this very interview.
You reached out over the summer and you said, it would be great to have Maddo, Don Lemon, others on the left put on this platform.
Yes, on the left.
Support. The digital town square is for all. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that we want to make sure that there are a wide variety of viewpoints. That it's, we always have, for example, Tucker Carlson, who most people will view as being on the right, and that's quite a prominent name on the right. We want to have prominent names on the left as well to provide different points of view, as well as.
That's the left. That's the left. Don Lemon, Rachel Maddow, radical Marxist Leninists. Really, the party vanguard, the leadership of our movement. Rachel Maddow says jump. I say how high. I'm a disciplined, member of the party organization. Okay, let's skip forward to the juicier parts. The different sections in here are titled Donald Trump and endorsing a candidate. He did help Ron DeSantis do a Twitter space to announce his campaign, which was a horrible disaster. They do a segment about the new Tesla Roadster, which is, I guess, he's like, he wants some advertising in it. Anyway, relaxation and video games. They talk about drug use. He has some comments about ketamine versus SSRIs. I mean, that part was actually kind of interesting that, SSRIs are maybe like one of the least effective forms of treating depression, certainly less than, what was that study that was going around the other week? Like dancing and exercise have better, more measurable results for improving mood and your sense of well-being. Let's skip ahead to the Great Replacement Theory. 2319. Now, we've gotten deep enough into the interview. Elon Musk is, I think, a little unhappy, to say the least.
Yeah. Can we talk about the Great Replacement Theory now? Some of the things that you post, the Great Replacement Theory, you claim that Democrats, President Biden's immigration plan to open up the border, you said that the president is getting, and Democrats are doing it to get more votes. But undocumented immigrants cannot vote in federal elections, so how is that possible?
Right. Well, you're conflating two things. One is Great Replacement Theory. The other is, which I don't subscribe to that. I'm simply saying that there is an incentive here. If legal immigrants, which I think have a very strong bias to, at least everything I've read, it's a very strong bias to vote Democrat. The more that come into the country, the more they're likely to vote in that direction. But it is, in my view, a simple incentive to increase voters, to Democrat voters. So the question is like how? So there's a few ways that this works. One is that when the census is done, the census is based on all people in an area, whether they are citizens or not. So if there are a concentration of people who came here illegally in a particular state or in a particular state, that state will actually then get an increased number of House seats. So the House seat apportionment is proportionate to the number of people, not the number of citizens.
My connection is perfect.
So
we have
the
zero dropped
illegals
frames.
Overwhelmingly go to
strong connection
like California,
health.
New York.
It's
It's
just the X platform that can't play video. It keeps rebuffering, and now it's like,
with and without,
I don't know,
illegals,
100 lines of resolution. It's all crunchy and artifacted.
I believe the blue state, there would be a net loss of blue states of approximately 20 seats in the House. This also applies to the Electoral College. So you say, like, well, this also applies to electing the president, because the electoral votes are also done by apportionment the same way that House seats are done.
But the reason, Elon, the Electoral College is in place is to balance that, is so that doesn't happen. So what you're saying about it is the exact opposite of the reason why the Electoral College is there. The Electoral College at this point, in our history, gives people who are in smaller states and red states much more of an influence over our elections than people who are in blue states, and the majority of the people in this country. That's what the Electoral College does. It actually does the exact opposite of what you're saying. It protects people who are in smaller states and protects people who are in red states.
Well,
the red states, because they tend to be smaller and less populous.
I think that statement is what you said is true, but what I said is also true, which is that if as is the case, a disproportionate number of legal immigrants go to blue states, they amplify the effect of a blue state vote. And the math, as I understand it, you can research this obviously very easily on there. It's like it's pretty straightforward to research this. But my understanding is that there would be that the Democrats would lose approximately 20 seats in the House if illegals were not counted in the census, and that's also 20 less electoral votes for president. So the illegals absolutely do affect the who controls the House and who controls the presidency. It does not affect the Senate.
Yeah. In blue states, you're talking about. I
Yes.
don't believe that your information on that is right. So listen, let's talk more about the Great Replacement, because the first time that you posted on X about this Jewish conspiracy, you ended up apologizing.
I didn't call it a conspiracy. I just said that there's a simple matter of incentives.
I think this is where he got fired. You can tell he's a little bit upset about this interview. I mean, I guess kudos to Don Lemon for doing a tough interview, because he could have really made it just, very milquetoast and, flattering interview. It was like, oh, thank you for doing all your free speech stuff and whatever other bullshit. But like, I guess he didn't expect he would be fired from it. I mean, I don't really have any sympathy for Don Lemon. He's just kind of like an annoying, wishy-washy, centrist, whatever. I don't particularly have any sympathy for anybody here. I kind of like, I have a little bit of schadenfreude because Elon Musk is clearly very uncomfortable with this process, and also Don Lemon sucks. So yeah, you can just enjoy both of them being in a bit of misery right now.
You don't need a conspiracy when you have basic incentives. In my view, there's a basic incentive that is fundamental that for the Democrat Party to foster and usher in a large number of illegals. Yeah. And you don't need a conspiracy in that case, because you have a very basic incentive. You could say I'm wrong about that incentive, but that's my view. I'm not buying some great replacement theory. I'm simply saying there appears to be a very clear incentive for Democrats to maximize the number of illegals because it helps them win elections.
I'm talking about the Great Replacement theory is also part of a Jewish conspiracy theory. And when you did the tweet, or you responded to the tweet about that, you ended up apologizing, and which I think is, it's good that you ended up apologizing. You went to Auschwitz with Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God, he's
so
rolling
you
his
said you
eyes.
learned your lesson. What did you learn?
And now it's buffering again. Oh my God, dude. This
I said I
platform.
learned my lesson.
You said you learned your lesson when you apologized, and you said you went to Auschwitz. You saw what.
No, I was already aware of these things, and the nature of my comment that really inflamed people. What I was trying to say, and I did very quickly clarify. This is what I'm saying: is that a number of prominent Jewish philanthropists fund groups that they should really take a closer look at funding, because some of the groups they fund, I think, are anti-Semitic.
Yeah. Do you understand the connection between the two? There's a connection between, you said Democrats, the Great Replacement theory, but when it comes to the actual Great Replacement theory, originally it was started about Jewish people, as you said, flooding in the country, and then now people are using it for Democrats, saying the same thing about Democrats, flooding.
In my view, it's a simple matter of incentive.
What?
Yeah. I actually don't see an incentive for Jewish people to want to have legal immigration. I don't think there is such an incentive.
The Great Replacement theory is a neo-Nazi trope. It's in the neo-Nazi manifesto. It's in the Turner Diaries. It's referenced by the Buffalo mass shooter in his manifesto, where 10 people, black people, were murdered in Buffalo. There's the actual title of the Christchurch Shooters Manifesto. 51 people in the Muslim mosque were murdered. 23 people murdered in El Paso by a shooter who used the same language that you use in that manifesto. When you say
Don Lemon
Hispanic invasion.
He's actually going hard on him.
Is that not?
I didn't say an Hispanic invasion.
And you quoted a tweet that called it a Hispanic invasion.
If I quote something, it doesn't mean I agree with everything in it. It's just something that I think this is something worth people should consider.
Why would you quote something that you didn't believe in?
Because anything I quote is going to have a whole range of statements. Doesn't mean I agree with everything in it.
Do you think if you moderated yourself more, if there was better content moderation on the platform, that you wouldn't have to answer these questions from reporters about the Great Replacement theory as it relates to
don't have to answer these questions.
Great Replacement theory as it relates to Jewish people? Do you think that?
I don't have to answer questions from reporters. Don, the only reason I'm doing this interview is because you're on the X platform and you asked for it. Otherwise, I would not do this interview.
So you don't think do you think that you wouldn't get in trouble or you wouldn't be criticized for these things?
I'm
or that
criticized
there-
constantly. I could care less.
You don't care.
No, I don't.
Why
care.
not?
I don't think people should care what the media thinks about them. They're terrible judges of character.
Even someone who has one of the biggest social media and biggest information platforms in the world, you don't care, you don't think that you have any.
Billy says in the chat, okay, yeah, I was thinking kind of a similar thing. Let's read this out here. I think this was a 4D chess move by Don Lemon. Either he asks these questions and gets fired from X and gets press, or he asks these questions and gets an interview everyone else wants. Yeah, I was kind of wondering just the way he lined up that last question, that maybe he was like, I'm gonna be the only person who gets Elon Musk face to face to ask these things, ask about some of the kind of crazy stuff that he's been retweeting. And I don't care if this project works or not. Like, if it goes off of X, somebody else will pick me up, but at least I'll get this big scoop. I'll get a bunch of attention and something like that. Like, did he intentionally go into this trying to get fired? Or was he trying to, like, no, I really want to do this X show, and then this will be proof of concept that I'm asking you the hard questions and you're not afraid of free speech or whatever. Now I'm kind of wondering, like, just the way that was phrased and just the preponderance of examples that he gave, if he was, like, trying to get Elon Musk upset, try to capture something on camera that was, like, you know, him apologizing, him expressing remorse, or, you know, all sorts of other things that he's had to kind of, like, make public announcements about, of like, okay, I tweeted this, but I don't actually think that, and now I'll take a trip to Israel and I'll meet with Ben Shapiro and whatever else. And I wonder if he was trying to get fired. I didn't think about that before. He could be.
X.com, or you have any responsibility to the truth or moderating the platform?
You're conflating the truth with the media, and I think the media is not truthful.
Well, not with just the media. I mean, just the truth in general.
I care about the truth very much. That's why we have, for example, community notes on the X system, where in order for a community note to surface and provide corrective information about what somebody posts, and my posts are equally subject to this. I've been community noted many times. In order for a community note to surface, people who have historically disagreed must agree in order for a community note to surface. And all of the code for community notes is open source. All of the data is open source, so you can completely recreate it from scratch. The way to build trust is transparency.
Community notes is pretty good.
I have noticed community notes. I think that you are right about that, and I do think community notes are helpful. I think any type of content moderation, I do think that's helpful. You recently called content moderation, though, a digital chastity belt. Do you think that you believe that X and you have some responsibility to moderate hate speech on the platform?
I think we have a responsibility to adhere to the law, and we have a responsibility to be transparent about when things are shown, why they're shown. That's why we open source our algorithm. I think once you start going beyond the law, now you're putting your thumb on the scale. And we don't want to put our thumb on the scale.
It doesn't concern you that hate speech has gone. Research shows that it's gone up on the platform since you took over. That's not concerning to you?
I believe that is false. In fact, the research that I've seen says it went down.
The study from the Institute of Strategic Dialogue found that anti-Semitic tweets doubled from June 22 to February 2023. One study reported that as many as 86% of the posts reported for hateful content remained up after being reported. Hate speech on the platform is up.
So what they will typically do is they will count the number of posts, but not count the number of views. So what matters is, was that post given high visibility, or what did like one person see it? And if you look at the number of views of how many times was hate content viewed on our platform, it is down substantially.
Yeah. Well, that's not what the study shows. And you said you like transparency. I'm going to show you this. And
Don, you can get a study that will tell you whatever you want.
I mean, I gotta say, I follow all sorts of like political extremism and whatever, and I talked about this with Daniel Keller on the podcast. I just think that it seems like there's a clear increase of like just insane right-wing shit on Twitter since Elon Musk took over. People feel, one, emboldened, they're not worried about getting deplatformed, and also But there's some retuning of the algorithm where it just seems like that stuff is, from a few different facets, it just seems to be increasing very clearly. I don't know if my feed is the greatest measurement for all of that. You can also, hate speech is it's a very slippery term of like what constitutes hate speech. So I mean, I would have to say that it sounds very unlikely that the quantitatively the total number of views for hate speech is down. Like I remember when YouTube said that a number of years ago, and you could actually see in like the view counts of certain channels that like there was a steep decline, and then algorithmic recommendation would be made impossible for a few channels. Like we ran a few tests and like just play things endlessly, see if you can you clock in a browser 6 hours of watching content from a channel. Can you get an algorithmic recommendation for that channel that was one of the sanctioned, quarantined channels on YouTube? And you couldn't. They really did suppress it, and it was true what they said. It was recommended far less. So I don't feel like that's the case in Twitter. I don't know if I have an account to actually make an objective assessment, and I haven't seen obviously the quantitative data for that. But some of these companies, I will say that when they present these statistics, there was a piece about this TikTok very long time ago, probably 2019, I think this piece was written, that there was this whole fuss about like, this was the first wave of TikTok has a Nazi problem. That might have actually been the text of the article, that might have actually been the title. And the video that they were complaining about was censored on the big image that went out. I had the same screenshot because I'd been following those accounts, and the video had like 6 views or something like that. Like it was just so infinitesimally small. Like unless you knew the particular hashtags to look for, you would not be able to find the content. You wouldn't be recommended it. You had to know the networks of posters who were finding these different corners of the internet to spread their messages, like mostly to groups that were already sympathetic, just repost content for a group of people that would hop around different platforms. So although those people would post very frequently, like they post, tens of images, hundreds of images, whatever, the total viewership of all of them was like really, really small. Like it was in the single digits in this case, but within like a community of a few thousand people, versus an image that is recommended to millions of people. Like it's quantitatively only one post, but it reaches an enormously large audience. So something to his point here about view numbers being a better indicator than quantitative numbers of posts that are shown to very small audiences. But I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked at the studies, and I just, to be honest, I don't care enough about Twitter. I don't care enough about Twitter. I know I should care more, but I'm kind of happy. I never really invested too much time in it. I'm kind of just happy to sit in the sidelines as the whole thing melts down. If it was Instagram or Meta or something like that, where like I was using it for other projects or something, I would probably have a reason to care more. But I don't know. It just seems like Twitter rots your brain from the very beginning, and now it's rotting people's brains worse. So if it gets worse, then that's just what it is.
These are just a handful of extremely. If you look at those anti-Semitic and racist tropes and tweets, and as of this morning, they're still on X. And from your own content policy, these posts should have been deleted. So why haven't they been deleted? Why are they still there?
That's a kind of wild. Wait, this is actually kind of an insane. This is an insane. Okay, so this video, which is 500,000 views now and has obviously been remediated to all these other platforms. This video has been on the platform for what, like 12 hours, and is already at 500,000 views. He's like, it's really bad to show this racist imagery to people, and then he shows it to as many people as possible. What an insane thing to do. What an insane thing to do. Why did they put it, the guy who edited the video had to put it into the video. Like they had to get those JPEGs, get those screenshots, edit those insanely, like explicitly really racist memes into the video. He couldn't just print them out and put them on a piece of paper and show it to Elon Musk, so he wasn't exposing millions, potentially tens of millions of more people to the very content that he wants to not be on the platform. What a very strange decision. That was wild. I think actually, I don't know if this stream could get banned for even just showing that. I have no idea. I have no idea.
They are illegal.
Wow, I was not prepared
for that. These have been up there for a while. Are they illegal? they're not illegal, but they're hateful, and they can lead to violence.
That's why he got fired. That's it.
You know, and all of these mass shootings attributed social media to radicalizing.
So Don, you love censorship, is what you're saying?
No, I don't love censorship.
Then why are you asking?
I believe in moderation, but I don't believe in
censorship.
I think he's trying to get fired with this. I think he's trying to make a political statement.
But don't you think free speech is one thing, right? Or not, you know.
Look, if something's illegal, we're going to take it down. If it's not illegal, then we're putting our thumb on the scale and we're being censors.
You're putting your thumb on the scale for moderating hate speech. I mean, you don't put out child pornography. That's not.
It's illegal.
Some people would say that's considered censorship. I'm just saying.
Don, that's a terrible example.
Don, I literally said, if something is legal, okay, we will obviously remove it.
Okay.
But if it is not legal, the laws in this country are put forward by the citizens. We're a democracy. If those laws are put in place by the people, we adhere to those laws.
Okay, I agree.
To the laws of others. If you go beyond the law, you're actually going beyond the will of the people.
Okay, agreed.
You know, all of this would be fair. All of this would be fair, what he just said, if they weren't kicking people off for posting pro-Palestinian content. If they weren't saying that, like, from the river to the sea is hate speech or whatever. All the bullshit that he came back from his, like, apology tour and said. If they actually had, you know, a horizontal playing field for all this stuff, and we would just have to accept that, you know, that speech is grotesque. Those memes that were shown are very offensive. We don't want to hang out with those people. We firmly disagree with them. But in order to maintain our own freedom of speech and express solidarity with Palestine, we have to entertain that type of content being on the platform. That would be one coherent, clear way of approaching the problem. Not what Elon Musk is doing, also. An absolute damn shame. A damn shame. And now they're going to ban TikTok because of it. Unbelievable. Okay, where are we on this? We're about to get into... I'm going to skip us forward to where he talks about the woke mind virus. Let's do the woke mind virus at 5125.
I did not.
Let's talk about trans rights and the woke mind virus, because you talk about that a lot. You're right about that a lot on the thing. You have been deeply outspoken about the issue of trans rights. You posted trans rights. You posted that pronouns and bio mean the woke mind virus ate your brain. Do you know what the term woke actually means?
It's come to mean a lot of things.
But what originally it was meant to mean. It's just being aware of inequities in society and being aware of facts and history.
Yeah, I think it's come to be... I think being aware of inequities in society is fine, of course. But trying to blame everything trying to make everything a race issue is, I think, divisive and corrosive to society.
Even as it relates to trans issues, which is what I'm...
Yeah, race or, you know, gender or whatever.
You think that society blames everything on racism now?
It blames a lot of things on it, and, yeah.
You think that's unfair?
Yeah.
Why?
I think we should not make this a constant subject. I think we need to move on. I think we should, you know, treat people like people.
You don't.
Strong argument from the guy from South Africa, you know. I don't know why it's like everyone is always, they're hesitant or like they're kind of afraid to, like, I think that woke is a rather easy thing to describe. Like, it's a preference for like representative diversity and then systems of extreme asymmetry between the leadership and the community, between the CEO and the workers, or the pay rates in the institution, or the, you know, who's in charge and who has to work. Isn't that enough for it? I don't know why Don Lemon, some people like to do this kind of very wishy-washy definition of it. And I think like the overreach of those things is actually like very clear to a lot of people in society. So Elon Musk, obviously not the best interlocutor on this question, but Don Lemon, not really doing justice to the topic. You know, he's made all sorts of statements in the past about black men pulling up their pants and all sorts of, you know, just dumb neoliberal bullshit. But Elon Musk certainly could have answered that a lot better. You know, like when he asked is it unfair? He shouldn't have said it's unfair. He should have said like it's wrong, like it's the wrong analysis. This interview is like two guys who don't do the reading getting into an argument in class. A powerful ghost. That's exactly it. Yeah.
This country was founded on racism and founded on slavery and in many ways inequities that still continue on to this day.
I think every country at that time, and I think even today, was extremely racist. Every country. Obviously, slavery was present in about half of this country, but was not present in the north. There was racism for sure, but you know, I think we want to look to the future rather than the past, and instead of engaging in constant rehashing of the past. Because in fact, if you look at history, if you study history broadly, everyone was a slave. Everyone.
Yes. Well, not everyone was a slave.
No,
but
everyone was a slave.
Okay, but
we are all descended from slaves.
Yeah.
Well, all of us.
Yeah.
It's just a question of when. Was it more recent or less recent? That's it.
Right.
God.
So but what future do we want?
Yeah, the more recent or less recent, man. For some people, it's like really recent. That's holy shit, dude.
Let's just move on and treat everyone, you know.
Yeah, real South African take right there. Holy shit, dude.
Just who they are as an individual.
I agree with you with that. That's the ideal. But what the evidence shows is that that's not what's actually in practice.
I think we're doing better than anywhere else.
That's true. I agree with that. But that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean a lot to a whole lot of people who aren't able to take advantage of the opportunities that you were able to take advantage of, simply because the color of your skin.
What advantages does my color of my skin give me?
Well, there's an ease that you have in society that many people of color don't. You were able to come to this country voluntarily. There are many people who were not able to come to the country voluntarily. There are people who came here as slaves.
For me to come here.
And there is a legacy of slavery that still continues on. There's a legacy of racism that still continues on in this country. That's undeniable.
Well, if we keep talking about it nonstop, it will never go away.
Oh my God, he's so bad at this.
It will never go away.
He's so bad at this. Don Lemon is just teeing him up for all these easy answers. At some point, like Don Lemon like says the answer for him, where it's like Elon Musk said, I think we should just treat people as individuals or something. He said we do it better than anyone else. Like that kind of liberal progressivism would be great. I think that would appease Don Lemon for his answer, but Elon Musk just keeps digging himself into deeper and deeper holes. Unbelievable. Holy shit. Wow, this is a very painful watch. Yeah, tough watch. Reynolds says in the cat says in the chat. Wow. Yeah, this is a lot. Billy has ID'd. Jeez, he's ID'd Don Lemon's glasses apparently. I'm going to see if these are the real ones. We've been IDing furniture recently on the stream, and now they look like a slightly different color to me. These look a little bit too light. Seems like they've got black edges. Can I see it from the side? I mean, it looks pretty close. It looks pretty close. All right, we'll see if we can get the closer shot of Don Lemon to confirm. Anything else on that? I guess the only other thing I would add is that maybe we don't do it better than anyone else. Like there's much more equitable outcomes in society for, God forbid, the Nordic countries, like, Denmark, Sweden, Finland. Like there's a whole bunch of countries in Europe that seem to have more equitable outcomes than the United States, which is the great irony because, on an interpersonal level, they are more openly racist, or I don't know if they're more or less, but they just seem to express it more casually. whereas in the U.S., people will sometimes be, very polite and hesitant about their behavior, not want to say offensive things, but we have a system that produces extreme inequalities, which obviously negatively affect people who are historically on the bottom of the labor market, do not have access to intergenerational wealth, and so on and so forth, all of that shit. So maybe we don't actually do it the best, but I think he could have used that line of Don Lemon and just appeased some of his prodding here. Yeah, he's obviously very unhappy in this interview. Elon Musk is looking to get out of here. They're going to shift into talking about advertisers in a moment, and then maybe we'll wrap the segment after
Why
that.
do you believe that?
I think I'm just making a simple statement of fact. So I think we want to get away from making everything a race or a gender or whatever issue, and just treat people like individuals.
Do you have any desire to understand what many people of color and even trans people, how they feel about this country and how they're treated in this country? If they say and they believe that they are treated a certain way
I think these are the glasses. I think Billy got the right link.
You cannot have a situation where someone is a self-described victim, and they just get to be that because that's how they feel.
I think that does happen in some cases, but not all cases. And I think that not understanding the history of the country, I think, is a real shame. Look, I've had incredible opportunities
and other countries.
I've had incredible opportunities as a person of color.
Right.
But I've also been
very well.
But I've also been discriminated against, and I know that I have, and I know that that's real. And for someone to say that that isn't happening, I should.
Don Lemon is terrible. Wow.
Not
Herb Reynolds.
I should
Yes.
just move forward and not think about.
So is
that
Elon Musk.
and ignore
Everyone
the
is.
past
And this
insulting.
platform is terrible because it
I'm not
keeps
saying it.
buffering and pausing,
You keep
and
putting
it's
words
just
in my
full of
mouth.
artifacts.
I'm not saying it.
I didn't say that you
barely
said it.
I'm
works.
saying that we want to. We as a country should move beyond questions of race and gender, and we should treat people like
Oh, you found he
individuals.
gave a link
and
to
base
his
our
glasses in a
opinions
tweet.
on them-
That's a way to
on
confirm it.
You know, their character and their skills.
I don't think that anyone will disagree with that.
Exactly.
All I'm saying is that that's not happening and is not equal for everyone. That those opportunities don't happen for everyone. And I am a living example that they don't. I know that they don't because I live it.
You've been incredibly successful.
I have been,
And I
in
think-
spite of it all.
Oh
But
my God, now it's
I
getting
am
personal. Wow.
I know
This is brutal.
what I know. I've experienced what I've experienced. You haven't done that. And I cannot, I don't know what it's like to be from South Africa. I don't know what it's like to be a white man. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I don't know what it's like to be a Latino person. I don't know that. So I wouldn't speak for them and just say, you need to move on. That's not for me to say. I believe that it would be great if the country could live up to that ideal. You think that everyone has the same opportunities in America, regardless of their background and ethnicity. Do you agree?
No, I don't think everyone has the same opportunities.
Okay. So when you talk about, let's talk about trans rights. When you decided to talk about the trans rights movement, you said that it was a woke mind virus. Why do you believe the trans rights movement is a woke mind virus? What do you mean by woke mind virus?
Woke mind virus.
The video isn't frozen. Elon Musk is just like sitting there staring ahead. Like he's so pissed. I was like, oh shit, did the video freeze? Do I have to like refresh the connection or something? Oh my God, this is so hard. This segment lasts for another minute and then we'll wrap. But like, oh my God, this has been very difficult to watch.
When you stop caring about people's skills and their integrity, and you start focusing instead on gender and race and other things that are different from that, I think the woke mind virus is fundamentally racist, fundamentally sexist, and fundamentally evil.
Okay.
And we've got a little bit more time, so
yeah.
you choose your question.
Okay, so okay, thank you for that. But I would appreciate you answering these. I think it's important that we're doing this. I think it's important to the world to hear this, especially what's going on in our country. The reason I ask you, listen, there are a whole lot of things that people maybe have questions about when it comes to transgender people. Even people who are part of the LGBTQ plus community have questions about that. But if you are a free speech absolutist, right, and that is part of the First Amendment, also the freedom of expression falls under that First Amendment as well. So why can't people choose to identify with the gender that they feel comfortable with, or with a use a pronoun? Isn't that part of freedom of expression?
I guess no. They can ask others to do whatever they feel. They can ask others to do anything. It's a different question whether they mandate that others do that thing.
Okay. Let's talk more about free speech and for advertisers, right? Because all this controversy, I believe, as you know, has made X less appealing to advertisers. About half of them have left the platform. You call advertisers that left X.com. You said they were oppressors. You've even gone as far as saying it publicly that they can go F themselves or go fuck themselves.
The advertisers are oppressors.
If they're going to force censorship on the company before advertising, then obviously I find that unacceptable.
You find it unacceptable. Why is that not a form of free speech? They are free to advertise where they want. They're not beholden to, they're not obligated to advertise.
They're not obligated.
On X.com.
Right.
So how is that not free speech?
That's whereas the other platforms will censor on behalf of advertisers, the X platform will not.
Okay. So, but you think you don't think it's okay for them not to advertise with or have their content or their advertisement next to something that is anti-Semitic or
that is a different question. You can absolutely choose where next to which content do you want your advertising to appear.
Yeah, advertisers already do that.
Absolutely, of course. And we have, I think, very good ad placement controls in this regard.
Yeah. So you said if they kill the company, it's them. But doesn't the buck stop with you? I mean, you're
on. I have to say, choose your question carefully. There's 5 minutes left.
Okay, but
so is this the question you want to ask?
Same question is you said that they are killing the company, but you're the head of the company. The buck doesn't stop with you?
He's furious. He's furious. He's like winding up. He's winding up. Oh, this time it is my connection, actually. Oh, sorry, gang.
I acquired X in order to preserve freedom of speech in America, the First Amendment. And I'm going to stick to that. And if that means making less money, so be it.
So I have to be, listen, I'm just being honest, right? I'm not trying to, like, get you or anything. I was just surprised that you would blame other people for killing the company. I mean, when you say the buck stops with the President of the United States, regardless of what happens, right? So, why would that question upset you? You seem upset by it, are you?
I think you.
And I'm not trying to upset you.
Well, you are upsetting me because the way you're phrasing the questions, I think, is not cogent.
It's not what?
Not cogent.
Cogent.
Yes.
Go ahead.
If given a choice where an advertiser is saying, like, you have to censor all this content on the platform, irrespective of where their advertising appears, then our answer will be like, look, you can choose where you want your advertising, what you want your advertising to appear next to, but you can't insist on censorship of the entire platform. And if you insist on censorship of the entire platform, even where your advertising doesn't appear, then obviously we will not want them as an advertiser.
So what would you say to advertisers who have left the platform or who are considering coming back or not coming back? What would you like to say to them?
Well, first of all, almost all of our advertisers are coming back to the platform. So it's a very short list of advertisers who are not coming back to the platform. And our advertising revenue is rising rapidly. And our subscription revenue is rising rapidly. And I feel very optimistic about the future of the X platform.
Okay. Listen, honestly, I'm not meaning to offend you. You're an intense person. Where does that intensity come from?
I was born that way. And I had a tough childhood.
You did?
So, yeah.
How so?
Walter Isaacson goes into it in the book, and we only have a couple minutes left, so...
All right.
Too long to describe. So there are 1 or 2 questions I can do, and then we'll have to call it.
Okay, again, I don't mean to upset you. Why are you just...
No, I have a whole room full of people waiting to meet with me.
Okay.
So we're just going over time.
Okay, all right, I understand that. So when you talk about, you said you were born that way. Is that, did you think that the way that you see the world has to do with your relationship with anyone, perhaps your father or someone in your family?
In the last minute of the interview, he's
I
asking
think
like
we're all affected by the people we grew up with. My aspiration is to do whatever it takes to extend consciousness into the future. That's my goal. To make life multiplanetary as part of extending consciousness into the future.
Have the past few years,
So
and
did your
considering
fucked
everything
up
that's gone
dad
on, has it
shape
been
your whole
difficult for
life?
you and your family life?
It's been okay.
So then, how do you see your legacy, Elon? How do you see how people see you in the...
First of all, I say that if I died knowing that I did what was right, or did my best to do what was right, and even if in the history books they said I did wrong, I would still feel okay about that. I care about the reality of goodness, not the perception of it. I think we should view civilization as tenuous, as fragile. If you do study history broadly, you'll see that there's a rise and fall to civilizations. They don't always go up. So we should do everything we possibly can to preserve and extend civilization as we know it.
Yeah.
And improve it. To become more enlightened over time. And we therefore want to address civilizational risks. We want to make sure that we don't have, for example, demographic collapse, which is the case in a lot of countries, just very low growth rate. We want to obviously avoid World War III, anything that is a civilizational risk. That's what I care about, civilizational risks. How do we extend consciousness into the future such that we are able to better understand the nature of reality?
Yeah.
That's what I care about. That's my motivation.
I know you have to go. If you'll just give me, I'll do a rapid fire thing here. Is there anything that you would change about anything that you've done in your life, in the past or recently?
I've made many mistakes over the years. If I had a time machine, I'd go back and fix them, but I don't have a time machine.
Thank you, Elon.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
So that's it.
Wow.
And as Elon would say, you be the judge. Let me tell you something about this show. The conversation doesn't end just because the camera stops. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
You won't see us next time because there's no episode 2. That was your boss. That was the guy who owns the platform, and there's no episode to go back to because that one got him fired. Wow. All right. So I guess mostly what I expected. It was pretty hostile. I don't really have such high hopes for Don Lemon, but also Elon Musk is just terrible at answering questions. I forget who said it. Maybe it was Derp Reynolds in the chat, but it's like it's like two kids in class who haven't done the reading and then get into an argument. That's kind of how it feels. Anything major to summarize about all of this? I don't know. I'm feeling pretty misanthropic about platforms recently. You know, I want to say that most of the stuff we've seen happen is a positive development, but you know, the looming TikTok ban, I was anticipating it. It's just infinitely infuriating that like this political topic, the one platform that's really allowing people to post about it, is the one that's going to get banned, you know, and that this particular issue was the thing that motivated people to pass that legislation through, which is just a real tragedy on its own. And we end with the supercut of Finkelstein mispronouncing Destiny's last name. I would love to. I had a shit post of an idea that I would put. I would just do the whole stream was just 4 hours of Finkelstein and Destiny arguing with each other. But maybe we can watch this one clip. We're gonna watch this 1 2-minute clip, and then I'm gonna sign us out for tonight, where I'm going to go and produce the podcast immediately after this. Okay, so we'll just enjoy a little bit of sitting on Destiny, which is honestly one of my favorite hobbies.
Your name, please?
Stephen Bonnell.
Okay. Mr. Bonnell, I'm a lot more literate than you, Mr. Borelli.
I'm gonna believe that's not
Mr.
controversial.
Bonnell, Mr. Bonnell.
Literally,
Mr.
you can
Borelli,
Google it. You can
Mr.
Google
Borelli,
it.
with all
Mr.
due
Finkelstein.
respect, the problem, Mr. Morelli, is you don't know the
Morelli.
English language. With
Multiple
all due
commanders
respect,
until all these
Mr.
people
Bonnell,
signed-
to see the misrepresentations that Mr. Bonnell,
Let me read one.
Mr.
Let me read one.
Borelli,
Let me read it. Let me just
Mr.
read a quote.
Borelli,
I think you're quick. I think you
all
want to read one.
Let him read.
Absolutely not. You're
Mr.
dead
Borelli,
wrong.
Mr. Borelli, please don't teach me about the English language.
Did you read the case?
Yeah.
It is
Mr.
a highly
Borelli,
special intent
I'm
to be
going to
convicted
ask you
of
again.
genocide. Yes.
Please stop displaying your imbecility.
Okay, I'm sorry if you think the Declaration of the Judge is
Don't
imbecile.
put on public display that you're a moron.
Yours in
Mr.
books,
Borelli,
okay?
I read the case around 4 times.
They just don't show genocidal
Mr. Borelli,
intent.
brace yourself.
The Israeli minister.
Is that? Oh no, it's still going. It's still going.
Finance
My
on the
video
8th of
doesn't wanna
October
play
war.
today.
Mr. Bonnell,
Wait, you do know how to pronounce my name. Are you mispronouncing it intentionally?
I made you into an Italian all the time.
It may be meaningless to you, Mr.
It was
Bonnell.
meaningless to everyone in
Okay,
the region.
Mr. Bonnell.
Who owned
that
the Gaza
is-
Strip before 67?
Mr. Bonnell, don't change the subject.
The actual
Destiny
alternative.
should
Yes,
talk
you're-
about
yeah,
making
you're
money
media,
off
yeah, you're
of
a media blitz.
idiocy.
Wait,
Listen to this.
the only option is
Mr. Bonnell
combat.
is now an expert on Palestinian
Hold on.
mentality.
Where it was a good
We
faith
have
effort.
a written record.
With all due respect,
We have a written
Mr.
record,
Pop
Mr.
Historian,
Burrell.
you can't even read the written records. I don't know why you're referring to
Excuse
it, okay?
me? I
There's-
just said there
there's-
are 15,000 pages.
Holy
on
shit! It's like this for 4 hours.
I
from
know,
all of
cherry
them,
pick.
okay?
This is
I
too
agree.
much.
That's
Mr.
great.
This is
Burrell,
too much.
At
Yeah.
least I had a quote to cherry
That's
pick.
great.
All you
Twinklestein,
have
and
is
I can,
Wikipedia.
do you want me? I gave you quotes.
All you
I-
have
All
is
you have is
Wikipedia.
They added all of Israel in 67.
Okay,
What do you
Mr.
think
Bonnell,
those wars were about?
you
You're
talk
not going to
so-
respond
you
to
talk
anything I'm
so-
saying because you have no
I'll
answer.
respond to you.
That's correct.
Okay,
yeah.
Mr. Bonnell.
If you're a historian, if you
okay.
do all this
Oh
work,
my
then
God.
tell me what they
Here's
said. Don't
something,
just-
Mr.
don't just tell me a
Bonnell.
sentence. Tell me by what
Mr.
metric.
Bonnell.
Because they were
Mr.
fake, or
Burrell,
that maybe
Mr. Burrell.
51% of the
Mr.
people were
Burrell.
killed.
Look,
Wow. Okay, that brought me into a better mood. That's yeah, that really did something. I'm glad we closed with that. Thank you, Colleen, for linking that in the chat. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. I'm going to end a bit early so I can produce the podcast tonight, and our connection is now crapping out at the very end of the stream. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. I've got what's coming up for this week. We got another podcast in the works, a Substack piece. There's and the game is coming out in April. So yeah, very exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. Thanks everybody. Happy Monday. I will see you next week. Have a good night.